You are not your body. This is not just a motivational phrase. It's a foundational truth that, when internalized, will begin to reshape how you see yourself and how you live your life. Your physical body is simply the vehicle through which you experience the world. It is the house for your spirit, your thoughts, your imagination, your intuition, your will. And it is your mind that determines the quality of your life, not your appearance. We live in a world that places immense value on the physical. From billboards to social media feeds, the message is reinforced daily. Your worth is tied to how you look. And for many women, especially those whose bodies don't fit into a narrow, often unrealistic standard of beauty, this creates deep feelings of inadequacy. If a woman has small breasts, she may be told, directly or indirectly, that she's less feminine, less attractive, or somehow lacking. These are beliefs implanted by a distorted society, not truths about who you are. The truth is, your body is not the source of your power, your mind is. Your mind is the most powerful tool you will ever possess. Through your mind, you hold the ability to think independently of your circumstances. You can imagine, you can create, you can direct your thoughts to build a life that is far beyond anything physical. And yet, most people live their lives trapped in the illusion that the body defines their value. This is not by accident. We are conditioned from an early age to think this way. From school, media, culture, and even family, we're taught to place our self-worth in the way we look, the size we wear, or the approval of others. That conditioning embeds itself deep in our subconscious mind, and unless we challenge it, we will live our entire lives thinking that we are only as good as our reflection in the mirror. But here's the deeper truth. You are not your reflection. You are not the number on a scale. You are not the size of your breasts or the shape of your hips or the texture of your skin. You are the consciousness that observes those things. You are the awareness that can choose what to think, how to feel, and what to focus on. That is where your real power lies. Your body is temporary and constantly changing. It will age, it will shift, it will evolve, but your mind, when developed and directed, can remain powerful, focused, and intentional for your entire life. The paradigm shift happens when you stop identifying with your body and start identifying with your potential. Think about it. Every major breakthrough, every moment of genius, every act of courage, every invention, every song, every business, every empire, it all began in the mind. It was thought that changed the world, not appearance. And if the people who changed history, the ones who built, created, inspired, and transformed society, had stopped because they didn't look a certain way, the world would be missing greatness. You are capable of that same greatness, and the only thing that separates you from it is your belief in what's possible. Most people don't realize that the mind operates in two parts, the conscious and the subconscious. The conscious mind is where we think, analyze, and make decisions. But it's the subconscious mind that truly runs the show. It stores every belief, every emotional pattern, every fear, and every self-image. And unless you take control of what's planted there, it will continue to run automatic programs based on old conditioning. That's why a woman who is intelligent, capable, and beautiful may still feel small or unworthy, not because it's true, but because the subconscious mind has accepted false beliefs as reality. And this is where the real work begins. You must reprogram your subconscious. You must begin to speak differently about yourself. You must reject the idea that your value comes from your body, and you must repeat that truth again and again until it becomes your dominant thought. Understand that your mind is a garden. If you don't plant intentional seeds, the weeds will grow by default. Society will plant weeds, fear will plant weeds, past trauma will plant weeds, but you have the power to dig those out and plant new beliefs. Beliefs like, I am whole, I am powerful, I am enough. These are not just affirmations. They are declarations to your subconscious mind that you are reclaiming your identity. Because the real you is not what people see, it's what you believe. When you begin to live from the mind, you move differently. You carry yourself with a quiet strength. You stop apologizing for your existence. You stop seeking validation from people who don't even understand their own value. You stop performing for acceptance, and most importantly, you start to create. You create your reality through the power of thought. You visualize the life you want. You hold the image with emotion and repetition, and slowly, your outer world begins to reflect your inner self-image. That's the law, that's the system, and once you understand it, you never go back to letting something as changeable and insignificant as breast size define your destiny. The body may influence first impressions, but the mind influences legacy, and legacy is what lasts. The woman who leads from her mind is the woman who cannot be shaken. Her value is not placed in trends or opinions, it is rooted in truth. And once you grasp that truth, nothing about your body can ever make you feel less again. Negative feelings are often misunderstood. They are not flaws, they are not weaknesses. They are not signs that you are broken or incapable or unworthy. Negative feelings are signals, they are messages. They are inner indicators that point to something deeper going on inside of you, something that needs to be acknowledged, addressed, and ultimately transformed. But most people never learn how to read these signals. Instead, they suppress them, avoid them, deny them, or try to cover them up with distractions. But ignoring a signal doesn't make it go away. It just makes it louder. You have to understand something fundamental. Feelings are energy in motion. They carry vibration, and that vibration affects the way you think, the way you behave, and even the way you perceive reality. When you feel shame, guilt, insecurity, or anger, your entire inner world contracts, your vision narrows. Your thoughts become reactive, your body tenses up, and if you're not conscious, you'll start to identify with those feelings. You'll say things like, I am anxious, or I am not enough, or I am the problem. But here's the truth, you are not your feelings. You are the observer of your feelings. You are the one who can choose how to respond to them. And when you begin to see negative emotions as feedback, not final judgments, you reclaim your power. Let's break this down. Every time you experience a negative feeling, there's a thought behind it, and every thought you have is based on a belief. So when a woman feels less than because of her appearance, because of something society has labeled as imperfect, maybe her body, her face, her breasts, or her weight, she isn't actually feeling bad because of her body. She's feeling bad because of a belief she accepted about her body. Maybe that belief was planted when she was a child. Maybe someone made a comment. Maybe she saw something on TV. Maybe she compared herself to another girl and felt like she didn't measure up. And over time, that belief settled in her subconscious and became her truth, not because it was true, but because it was repeated. So now, years later, when she stands in front of a mirror and feels unworthy, it's not her reflection that's hurting her, it's the old belief system. The feeling is a signal. It's saying, something inside of you needs to be reevaluated. You're living from an outdated program. But if she doesn't recognize the signal for what it is, she'll think the feeling is a permanent part of her. She'll think the emotion defines her. She'll try to fix it by changing her body, by seeking validation, by overcompensating, or by staying silent. And all the while, the real issue, the belief, goes untouched. This is why emotional mastery is not about suppressing feelings, but understanding them. When you feel low, ask yourself, what am I believing right now that's causing this feeling? What story am I telling myself? Who gave me this belief, and is it even true? Most of the time, you'll find that the belief isn't yours, it was handed to you. And if it was handed to you, it can also be dropped. You can choose a new belief. You can choose a new story. And when you change the belief, the emotion begins to shift. That's the process of transformation. That's how you stop being a prisoner of your own feelings and start using them as guides. It's also important to understand that negative emotions are temporary. No matter how heavy they feel, no matter how overwhelming they seem, they are not fixed states. They move, they rise, they fall, but when you resist them, you trap them. Resistance creates stagnation. And what you suppress doesn't disappear, it manifests. It shows up in your relationships, in your body, in your choices, in your self-talk. You have to learn to sit with your feelings, not as enemies, but as visitors. Let them show you what needs to be healed. Let them teach you, because every emotion carries a message, and when you decode it, you grow. The moment you stop judging your negative feelings and start decoding them, you shift from victim to creator. You stop reacting and start responding. You become emotionally intelligent. You begin to notice patterns, like how certain thoughts always trigger the same emotions, and how those emotions lead to the same choices. You begin to observe how your emotional state impacts your energy, your communication, your performance, and your relationships. And with that awareness, you start to choose differently. You begin to say, I don't have to believe everything I feel. I don't have to act on every emotion. I can feel deeply and still stay in control. This isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming emotionally aware. The most powerful people aren't those who never feel down. They are those who know how to feel without being ruled. They know that emotions are messengers, not masters, and they take the time to listen, to reflect, to process, and then to choose. This level of mastery isn't something you're born with, it's something you develop through intention and repetition. The more you practice, the stronger you get. If you've ever felt shame, insecurity, or unworthiness, know this. Those feelings are not telling you who you are. They are pointing you to what you've been believing, and beliefs can be changed. The way you feel today does not determine your future. It simply reveals what's ready to be upgraded. And once you understand that, you'll stop fearing your emotions and start using them as tools to build a stronger, wiser, more aligned version of yourself. Beliefs are not facts. They are mental programs, patterns of thought that have been repeated so many times they've become automatic. Most people go through life thinking their beliefs are truths, when in reality, they are just deeply ingrained habits of perception. These beliefs determine how you see yourself, how you interpret your experiences, and what you think is possible for your life. And unless you stop and question them, they will quietly dictate your behavior and outcomes without your conscious awareness. They are the silent architects of your results. Every belief you hold about yourself, whether it's about your intelligence, your body, your worth, your potential, or your place in the world, was learned. You weren't born thinking you weren't good enough. You weren't born believing you had to look a certain way to be loved. You weren't born with the idea that something about you was wrong. Those beliefs were absorbed. Maybe they came from something a parent said. Maybe they came from a moment at school. Maybe it was something you heard repeatedly from media, culture, or society. But somewhere along the way, a thought was introduced to your mind, and you accepted it. You gave it permission to take root. And once it was rooted, it became part of your inner programming. The problem is, once a belief is planted in the subconscious mind, it begins to shape every part of your life. It becomes a filter. So even if someone gives you a compliment, your subconscious belief might reject it. Even if you succeed at something, the old belief might say, that was just luck. Even when love shows up, the program might sabotage it, saying, I'm not really lovable. This is not because you're flawed, it's because your subconscious mind is running a script that no longer serves you. And unless you become aware of that script, you'll live your entire life according to a lie. But the beautiful truth is this: beliefs can be rewritten. The mind is not fixed. The subconscious can be reprogrammed. Just like a computer can delete old files and install new software, your mental system can release outdated beliefs and accept empowering ones. But here's the catch: you have to do it intentionally. You have to decide that the old story no longer defines you. You have to catch the belief in action, expose it, and replace it with something new. This process doesn't happen by accident. It happens through conscious repetition. The subconscious mind does not change because of logic. It changes through frequency and emotion. That means you can't just know a belief isn't true. You have to feel the truth of a new belief and impress it again and again until it becomes dominant. That's how belief systems are transformed, not through willpower alone, but through emotionalized repetition. For example, if a woman has the belief, "I'm not attractive because my body doesn't match the cultural ideal," that belief may be running 24/7 in the background of her life. She may dress a certain way, speak a certain way, and even hold back in relationships, not because she truly wants to, but because the belief is shaping her behavior. Now, if she wants to change that, she can't just tell herself once, "I'm beautiful." That's not enough to override years of conditioning. She has to say it every day. She has to feel it. She has to see it in her mind's eye. She has to build an image of herself that reflects the new belief and energize it consistently until her subconscious begins to accept it as real. That's how all lasting transformation happens. You don't fight the old belief, you replace it. You create a new dominant thought. You plant a new seed, and just like a plant, it doesn't grow overnight. You water it daily with intention, with energy, with repetition. And one day, it begins to take root. It becomes your new normal. You start to think differently, feel differently, and act differently not because you forced it, but because the new program has been installed. This is why awareness is so powerful. Once you become aware of your beliefs, you gain the power to choose them. You stop living on autopilot. You stop letting childhood programming, cultural messages, and past experiences dictate your future. You begin to ask, is this belief helping me or hurting me? Did I choose this belief or did I inherit it? Does this belief reflect the person I want to become, or is it holding me back? That level of questioning is where freedom begins. Most people never do this. They accept the hand they were dealt and call it destiny. But destiny isn't predetermined, it's programmed. Your beliefs are creating your results. Your beliefs are shaping your reality. And the moment you realize that, the moment you take responsibility for what's been running your inner world, you step into the position of creator. You stop being at the mercy of circumstances and start designing your future from the inside out. Your mind is the operating system of your life. You wouldn't run your computer on a 20-year-old outdated program, so why run your mind on old, limiting beliefs that no longer serve who you are becoming? You get to update your inner software. You get to install new patterns, new visions, and new truths. The process isn't always easy, but it is always worth it. Because when your beliefs change, everything changes with them. Comparison is one of the most destructive habits a person can fall into, and it's also one of the most common. It starts quietly and subtly, usually when you're very young, and then it builds. You see someone who looks a certain way, someone who has something you don't, and a little voice whispers, "You're not enough." That voice isn't yours, it was implanted. But if you don't recognize it for what it is, it becomes part of your inner dialogue, and it begins to control you. That voice grows louder the more you feed it with attention. You start scrolling through social media, flipping through magazines, walking through life measuring your worth against someone else's highlight reel. It becomes a mental habit, comparing your body, your success, your relationships, your lifestyle, your timeline, everything. For many women, comparison becomes particularly intense when it comes to physical appearance. The world teaches you to compete for attention, to fight for approval, to strive for some moving target of perfection that doesn't even exist. If your breasts are small, you're told you're less desirable. If your curves don't match the trend, you're told you're behind. And even if you do match the trend, it changes next year. So you chase, you criticize, you fix, you hide, and all the while you feel like you're not measuring up. But here's the truth: comparison is not a reflection of reality, it's a distortion. It makes you focus on lack. It blinds you to your own uniqueness. It disconnects you from your inner power. What makes this worse is that comparison operates from a scarcity mindset. It convinces you that there's not enough beauty, success, love, or opportunity to go around, that someone else's gain is your loss. But that's not how life works. You are not in competition with anyone. You are on your own unique path, with your own timeline, your own strengths, your own experiences, and your own purpose. No one else can do what you were designed to do. No one else can express what you were meant to express. And the sooner you let go of the illusion that you need to catch up or measure up, the sooner you return to your natural state of power. Confidence isn't something you get from comparing, well, it's something you build from within. It has nothing to do with being better than someone else. It has everything to do with knowing who you are. It's the quiet certainty that you have value, not because someone else approves, not because you match a trend, but because you are you. Confidence comes from alignment. When your thoughts, your self-talk, your actions, and your vision are all in harmony, you become unshakable. You stop looking sideways and start looking inward. You stop asking, "Am I enough compared to her?" and start declaring, "I am enough because I exist." The moment you stop comparing, you create space for self-connection. You start seeing your body not as something to compete with, but as a sacred instrument. Whether it's tall or short, lean or soft, curvy or slim, your body is not a decoration, it's a living expression of life itself. It carries you, it supports you, and it listens to your thoughts. It reflects your beliefs back to you. And when you stop criticizing it through the lens of comparison, it begins to respond to your love and attention. It begins to heal. Your energy changes, your posture shifts, your presence grows stronger. You stop hiding and start showing up fully. And it's not just your body, it's your entire being. Your personality, your energy, your way of thinking, your voice, your dreams, these are not accidents. They are gifts, but comparison blinds you to your gifts by making you obsess over someone else's. You begin to imitate rather than create. You start following instead of leading. You lose your original voice and start echoing someone else's. This is how potential is wasted, not through failure, but through imitation. The more you compare, the more you disconnect from your authenticity. And authenticity is where your true power lies. Every time you feel the urge to compare, that's your signal to redirect your focus. That's your moment of choice. Will you sink into self-judgment, or will you rise into self-ownership? Will you stare at someone else's lane, or will you run full speed in your own? Every ounce of energy you spend comparing is energy you could be using to create, to learn, to grow, to love, to serve, to evolve. Your energy is your most valuable asset. Don't waste it feeding insecurity. Invest it in building the life and the mindset that reflect your true worth. You must also remember that most of what people project is just that, a projection. The image you see online, the perfect picture, the filtered post, it's a performance. People are not showing you their inner world. They are not posting their deepest insecurities, their doubts, their breakdowns. And yet, you compare your private pain to their public presentation. That's not fair to you. That's not accurate. And it's not necessary. When you know yourself, you don't need to measure yourself against others. You don't need permission to feel worthy. You don't need applause to feel proud. You already have everything you need inside of you. You just need to stop looking outside of you to validate it. And the more you turn inward, the more you realize that no one can take your place. No one can replace your energy, your perspective, your contribution. That's where real confidence comes from knowing that you belong, not because someone else says so, but because you decide so. When you decide that your voice matters, that your path is valid, that your presence is enough, you stop shrinking in the face of comparison. You stop asking for space and start taking it. You stop doubting your place and start owning it. That is when you begin to rise, not because you beat the competition, but because you finally stepped out of it. The moment you decide, your life begins to shift. Not when circumstances change, not when other people approve, not when the timing feels perfect. It's the decision that does it. Decision is the doorway to transformation. Most people spend their lives waiting, waiting for a sign, waiting for clarity, waiting for confidence, waiting for the fear to go away. But waiting is just another form of resistance. It keeps you stuck in the same cycle, repeating the same patterns, living the same results. What breaks the pattern isn't more time, it's a decision, and that decision starts in the mind. There is a difference between wanting something and deciding to have it. Everyone wants to be confident, to feel whole, to experience success, to be at peace, but not everyone decides to make it real. A true decision means cutting off all other possibilities. It means you're no longer negotiating with doubt. You're not entertaining the old story. You're not letting fear sit in the driver's seat anymore. You draw a line in the sand and declare, "This is who I am now. This is what I choose to believe. This is how I will live, regardless of what has happened before or how things look right now." That is the point where power begins to return to you. You see, indecision is a form of self-betrayal. Every time you hesitate on your truth, you weaken your connection to yourself. You send a signal to your subconscious that you're unsure, that you're not ready, that your fears have more authority than your vision. And the subconscious listens. It doesn't question you. It doesn't judge. It just obeys. So if you send the message, "I don't know," your mind will reflect that confusion back to you in your results. But when you decide, truly decide, that you will think differently, act differently, speak differently, and believe differently, your subconscious starts to align with that new command. Your energy begins to shift. Your actions begin to match your intention, and your reality starts to catch up with your decision. You don't have to feel ready to decide. Readiness is an illusion. Confidence is something you build by acting in the face of uncertainty. It's not something that arrives at your doorstep. It's something you develop by deciding to move forward regardless of fear. Fear doesn't leave because you wait, it leaves because you walk through it. And the first step through fear is always a decision. A decision to think higher, speak with more conviction, hold yourself to a new standard, and refuse to settle for the version of you that was shaped by old wounds and outdated programming. A lot of people think change is hard, but it's not change that's hard. It's indecision that's painful. The mental tug-of-war, the emotional backhand. Fourth, the constant doubting and questioning and overthinking. That's what drains you. But the moment you decide, all that noise quiets down. You become focused. You become present. You begin to operate from clarity instead of confusion. And that clarity makes you magnetic. It pulls the right opportunities to you. It organizes your thoughts. It strengthens your voice. It sharpens your boundaries. It awakens your power. What most people don't realize is that the life they want is already available. It's just waiting on them to decide to claim it. Not wish for it, not hope for it, claim it. You claim it by showing up as if it's already yours. You speak differently. You walk differently. You think differently. You stop entertaining thoughts that contradict your vision. You stop surrounding yourself with people who feed your old identity. You stop apologizing for your presence and start acting in alignment with the future you've chosen to create. Because a real decision requires action, it's not just a mental shift, it's a behavioral shift. You back your decision with energy, intention, and movement. And with consistency, your reality starts to reflect it. Every major breakthrough in your life will start with a decision. Less yourself, but because you Delphially, a decision to reframe your past. A decision to stop blaming, stop shrinking, stop waiting, and start living from your truth. That decision doesn't need to be dramatic. It doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be firm. The firmness is what tells the subconscious, this is the new program. This is the new standard. This is who we are now. And once that program starts running, you'll notice things around you begin to shift. People respond to you differently. Opportunities show up, your energy changes, your focus sharpens, and it all begins with that internal shift. The decision comes before the evidence. Most people wait for proof before they commit. They want guarantees, signs, and outcomes before they take the leap. But life doesn't work that way. You must leap first, and then the net appears. You must act as if, and then the results align. The world responds to who you decide to be, not who you hope to be, not who you wish you were, but who you choose to become. And the beautiful thing is, you can choose at any moment. You don't need permission. You don't need to qualify. You don't need to wait for circumstances to align. You just need to choose. And once you choose, really choose, you stop tolerating thoughts and behaviors that contradict that decision. You hold yourself accountable. You redirect your mind when it drifts. You build momentum through repetition. You speak your new identity into existence until it becomes second nature. And every time fear tries to creep in, you remind yourself, I've already decided. This is who I am now. That inner commitment becomes the compass that guides you forward, even when things feel uncertain, because while circumstances may be unstable, your decision is not. Your decision is the anchor. It becomes the foundation on which you build everything else.